Welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here on time. Appreciate that very much. I like to start these on time. We have 2 hours scheduled. My hope is that we don't take 2 hours to go through this. Those schedules were made back when we were meeting in person still. And so 2 hours made sense with interaction and things like that. If we happen to go like 45 minutes, I'll take a break if there's more to do afterwards. And by the way, I'm happy to stay for the entire time to answer questions, or if we've got some good dialogue going, some good Q&A going, I'll stay as late as we need. So there's no pressure there. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Thom Pirone. Um, you may have been on some of my trainings before. I know some of you are with Pinellas Realtor Organization. I run the PROCoach program there. I'm the senior coach for PROCoach. And some of you may be from other organizations. And maybe you've seen some of the work I do with Stronghold training. Either way, my background is in a lot of leadership and sales training and consulting. And what we are looking to do today, and I hope the reason you're here is because you want to not only just have better presentations, whether it's with a buyer or a seller or potential buyer seller, but I hope you're really here today because you appreciate good leadership. I actually don't like to use the word sales much. I think it's just become kind of a four-letter word in our vocabulary. Not that it necessarily should be, but my opinion of sales, if you will, and my experience as a sales trainer is that all sales really is leadership done through selling. So if we approach every consultation interaction that we have with anybody as not an opportunity to get a commission, which I don't think you do, but as an opportunity to really help people make the decisions that are best for them, then what we're engaged in that sales process is really leadership. And if that's the case, then there are certain leadership principles that we can follow when it comes to having consultations, whether it's the first time on the phone with somebody all the way up to the closing table. We're having a consultative process. You were brought in as an expert with specific access, of course, but as an expert to lead, guide, and show the way. So it is leadership. Like it or not, what you do is lead people. That's what you were hired to do. And I'm sure that's what you desire to do. So I say all that at the front end to say what we're going to be looking at here. I'm going to be giving you specific structure for having consultations. But what's behind all of that, and I'll allude to this as we go through, is really just leadership principles. And if you pick up both the process as well as the principles, you'll be able to apply it in everything you're doing. And I'm going to show you why there's great benefits to that and financial rewards to that as well, and danger in not doing it. So a lot of people won't say sign up or register for a webinar like this because they'll say, "Oh, I already know how to do consultations. Just tell me how to get leads." When I did a marketing webinar a couple weeks ago. I had 94 people register for it. We capped at 100. I had 94 people register because everyone wants the leads. But then you do something on, say, consultations and how to do leadership, and you'll usually get a handful. Why? And I think the reason why is because we don't really recognize, realtors in general, perhaps, the industry perhaps doesn't recognize that the real value we add is in our ability to lead. Think about it this way. People either hire you for one or two reasons, or both. Either they have to hire you because they have to have a realtor because they don't understand how the paperwork works. So they need to get into a home somewhere to see it. That's the access. They need access. You hold the keys. Or they're kind of lost without you. They need the leadership. It's probably both, right? And even if they didn't realize they needed the leadership, they thought they knew it all, right? But they needed the access. If you provide the leadership, they value the leadership. Very rarely people say at a closing table, "I'm so glad you were there to let me in the home that day." Usually they're going to say, "I'm so glad you were with me through this challenging and difficult process," because it's different every time. Every single time you have a real estate transaction, things unexpected happened. The expected is the unexpected. It's a roller coaster ride. Your advantage, your value is that you've been through it 100 times. That doesn't mean it goes right because we hire you. It means you have the experience to guide someone. If you go with into the Amazon rainforest and you're going to go and say contact people deep in the jungle, you're always going to have a guide with you. Like, you're not going to try to figure that out on your own. But just because you have a guide doesn't mean that, things don't get a little scary, but you rely on that guide. And you know what happens if you get a good guide? You're going to tell everybody about that guide, and you're going to use that guide every time. If the guy just handed you a map and dropped you off somewhere, that's not going to be enough. But if the guide gave you a sense of security through the process, that's going to be life-changing. And here's my point. I say this every single chance I can get when I'm working with agents. The sales magic, if you will, the money in real estate, the business building is in providing that leadership, because people will refer you like crazy. When all we are is access to a transaction, if all we are is the cashier, we'll go with anybody. So when someone says, I got an agent, I roll my eyes. Oh, you need an agent? I got an agent. I roll my eyes. I hope no one ever says that about you. Need an agent? I got an agent. I hope instead they say this. You need an agent? Hold on. Don't call anyone else. Trust me. You have to use my agent. They, hands down, are going to give you what you need. They're the best. I couldn't have done it without them. That's what you need. Don't hire anyone else. If all they say is, I know you, worthless. How do we get to that place? Is it because we got the best lead gen systems? No. It's because we provide the best leadership. So what we're going to be talking about today is a process, a structure for establishing that leadership, a process and structure for maintaining that leadership, which is going to save you a whole lot of time, and a process and structure for capitalizing on that leadership so you continue to get more business. Okay, so we're going to go through it. Now, this is a webinar, not a Zoom meeting, which means I can't see you. Take that for whatever it's worth. I can't see you. I can't hear you. The challenge with that is it's not as interactive, right, as if we were together. So to interact with the group, which I hope you get a chance to do, use the chat. Now, when you use the chat, it defaults to all panelists, which only I can see on the drop down. When you click on chat, it says to, and it defaults to all panelists. Only I can see that, and I'm not really watching that. So you got to change that drop down to say all panelists and attendees. That way everyone can see it. So I'll go in there and I just said, hi, you can all see it. So interact in there. I would love to hear from you even right now. What are you hoping to take away from today? Why did you sign up for this? Maybe you heard that it had a very, very handsome instructor. You were lied to. But why did you sign up for today's webinar? Maybe jump into the chat there. Let me know you're alive and well, and that you're choosing all panelists and attendees and sending that. If you have a specific question for me and you want to make sure I see it, I'm not going to see the chat. If you have a specific question for me, go to you can see down your bottom bar there where it says Q&A, type it in the Q&A, and I will get to your questions as we go through. So questions you want me to see, put in the Q&A. Chat, making fun of me, all that good stuff goes in the chat there. And I will give you my email address now, because sometimes people would rather just send me an email. There it is. If you want me to unmute you and let's have a conversation at the end, I can also do that. Lots of new agents here. Awesome. Man, I am so glad you are here. Let me tell you something. What we're doing today, no one teaches you how to do. I'm sure there's somebody somewhere is teaching you how to do it. But in all my years of coaching agents, I have found that very few people learn how to do this stuff through real estate culture, brokers, definitely not real estate school, right? So awesome. So many new folks, man. I miss new member welcome, being live and in person at Pro so much because I love working with new agents. You guys, look, there's stuff real estate does because they've always done it that way. Some of that stuff's good. Some of it we can do better. Open houses, for example. If you go on my YouTube channel, I have a training on there on open houses. Man, we could be doing open houses so much better. I think my process has helped that. And the only reason I say my process, not because I'm some expert, like like everyone's doing it wrong or something. No, they're not doing it wrong. I just think we could do it better. And I think the reason I've been able to help people do that is just because I'm a little bit of an outsider looking in. I come from more of just a general sales and leadership training background. And there's some stuff when I got into real estate, I was like, oh, it's just weird to me. We've always done it that way, but we just always done it that way. And consultations are kind of the same way. So let's jump right in with one of them boring PowerPoint presentations, right? Wouldn't be a training without one of them. Not many slides. Yes, I will send you the slides when we are done. Everyone will get a follow-up email from me with links to supporting materials and slides and all that stuff. I'm going to go through this pretty quick because I want to get to more interaction, helping you, talking, stuff like that. So I'm going to kind of get through this fast. So let's talk about the first part here. What the heck is a consultation? It's a big, boring word. A consultation is literally, really, I consider a consultation to be any meeting you have with a buyer or seller. But the goal is to conduct a discovery meeting, to ask questions, and then a capabilities presentation, which is a fancy way of saying ask a bunch of questions and present your value. It's the sales pitch, right? It's typically going to happen because someone called you or you were referred to someone and you called them. We got together. Usually it starts with a phone call, little banter back and forth. And you go, well, why don't you come by the office? Or how about I meet you at the house or whatever it is. And then you kind of have that formal first date, if you will. That's the consultation. And I'll tell you right now, trying to avoid this because you think being super casual and cool is going to help isn't. The consultation is really valuable. We can overdo it and make it too too formal, sure, but it should be a cornerstone and a launch pad to your process. So if you're not doing a consultation right now, I'm going to suggest that you develop one. It's what we're here to do, and then use it. So when you get on the phone with someone, they go, I've been thinking about selling my house. You know what I suggest you do? Let's have this consultation. And always say this, especially you new folks, listen to this. You don't have to ask for commitment before the consultation. You know, a lot of people don't have consultations. Why? Because by the time the buyer or seller comes to them, they've already decided they want to buy or sell. That's called a lay down sale. And those are great. They're also rare. So a lot of agents that are doing like one transaction a month, which is great. I'm glad you're doing one transaction a month. But they're like, man, how come I'm not doing 3 or 4? Well, one of the reasons why oftentimes is because we don't really get to people until they've already made their mind up. And so you're just kind of right place, right time. If you want to change that, then we need to meet more people earlier on in the decision-making process. Most people don't think about hiring an agent until they need an agent. That's the problem, but it's also your biggest opportunity because what you can do is actually go out and meet people who might sell real estate or buy real estate in like a year or two and go ahead and give them a consultation now. And the only way you're ever going to be able to do that is by saying, hey, we should do this now. You have to kind of sell the consultation. It's going to be a huge benefit to you to do this now, even if you're not ready to buy or sell in like the next year or two, because you want to get this far ahead of it. The advantage to you is that once they've sat down and gone through the consultation, they'll either A, decide they actually want to do it now because they've got some skin in the game now, or 2, they're going to refer you to other people because they've now worked with you, or 3, they'll work with you. They'll start working with you when they are actually ready to buy or sell. All good. But when we're looking for the next 30-day deal and we're looking for low-hanging fruit and we're looking for fast deals, there's going to be less of them. And it's not really a way to build a business. That's just a way to build feast and famine. When you're just looking for someone ready to go right now in the next 30 days, there's only so many people out there ready to move right now. But there's tons of people not being marketed to. that want to make a move in the next 30 to 60 days or next year or two. All right. I'm getting off my soapbox so we can get through this. All right. So what a consultation is that. What a consultation isn't is this. You're not having a consultation, in my opinion. This is just Tom's opinion. If the person you're sitting in front of, buyer or seller, isn't aware they're at the consultation. So a lot of people tell me they have consultations, but it's just some phone call or, it's the conversation we had at the open house before they started working with you. And I guess in some ways it was, but I'm going to ask you to make it a little bit more official than that. If you're just casually kind of beating around the bush, asking some questions, that's not really a consultation because there's no clear structure or outcomes. And I might even say there's no clear value, right? Someone could just pick your brain, get to know you a little bit, and that's great, and go on and use their brother as a realtor, right? We really want to kind of bring them to the table. And that's what a consultation is, which is why we start a consultation off by setting the table. How clever. So we've got to set the table. So I'm just kind of going to jump in instead of defining what a consultation is any more than I already have. I'm going to jump in and start talking about how we begin a consultation. Now, real quick before I do that, you have to think in terms of your sales process. Now, this training isn't really designed to go over the entire realtor sales process, if you will, but you've got to think in terms of your sales process. Step number one to your sales process is probably some form of marketing, right? So you've done some sort of marketing, whether it's networking or open houses or advertising, or, you've just been at your kids' little league. Somebody found out you were a realtor and you started having a conversation. That first conversation I call the introduction. That's the intro. You're going to ask them some questions. They're going to ask you some questions. You're going to kind of start feeling like there's some electricity here. Like they might be ready. They might not be ready. They've got some interest. They've got some curiosity. And you're kind of satisfying that. And you're starting to build a bond, right? That early on kind of flirting that's happening. When that happens, whether it's a referral call, you're at networking, whatever, you've got to stop and invite. Stop and invite. So ask them some questions. Hey, where are you at? What are you doing? Where are you hoping to go? They'll ask you some questions. What should I do about this? What's your opinions on this? You have some of that initial kind of bonding. Go ahead and see that through. But then I want you to stop. And I want you to say this to them. Can I make a suggestion? They'll say, sure. You've already helped me. Sure. Why don't we get together for like 45 minutes to an hour and let me walk you through a little bit of a discovery consultation process I do. Even if you're not ready to buy or sell in the next year or two, I think you're going to get a lot of value out of my process. That's what you got to do. And then if they're real, if this is a real thing, schedule the appointment, right? That's what you got to do. Do a little bit of that intro, ask them where they are, where they're going, and how they plan to get there. They may have some specific questions for you. Go ahead and answer a little bit because it builds bond, but not more than 15 minutes. Somewhere between 5 and 15 minutes, hit the brakes and go, you know what I suggest we do? Let's get together. Oh, I'm not ready yet. Didn't think you were, but I think the consultation's still going to be really beneficial to you. That's how you get them there, guys. Okay. So remember that. Now, where we're starting here is we've sat down. We're at the Starbucks, the Panera Bread, the office, their home, whatever. We're going to start the meeting this way. So imagine, let's just take someone's home, for example. Well, this is a buyer or seller. Doesn't matter. You're walking in. You're going to have that small talk. You always do. Oh, this is a nice place. Oh, I see you've updated the kitchen. Oh, that's nice. Oh, this is your dog. No, I'm not allergic to dogs. Do I take my shoes off? Do I not take my shoes off? All that good stuff, right? You sit down at the table. How do we go from casual to official? By setting the table. Now we've sat down and you're going to say, let's go ahead and get started. And you're going to give them the ABCs here. Don't forget, I'm going to email you these slides. You will have this. If you're writing frantically, don't worry. We're going to go through this, okay? You're going to get the slides. So write down the stuff that's not on the slides. So now what you're going to say is, why don't we go ahead and get started? Why don't we go ahead and get started? The feeling in the room is going to be, this is real now. And you know what that feels like? Professionalism. When you're just casual all the time, that's friendly, but it doesn't feel like you got your act together, like you do this for a living. We want to feel like you're like the doctor, right? Like, let's get started. So you're going to say that, hey, let's get started. And here's the ABCs. We're going to walk through them one at a time. You start by appreciating them. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Well, let me start by saying how much I appreciate you meeting with me today. I'm really looking forward to help you sell your home. I've written this in the context of a seller presentation. You can adapt it for a buyer really easy by swapping sell with buy, right? Pretty easy. Let me start by saying how much I appreciate you meeting with me today. Notice I appreciate the person, not the time. We have a tendency to say, I appreciate you taking the time to meet with me. Don't appreciate the time, appreciate the person. Why? Because relationships, bond and trust and all that stuff is formed on intimacy, meaning we got to get personal with them. Why do we say I appreciate you taking the time? Because it's not intimate. And being intimate is vulnerable. It makes us feel a little uncomfortable, but that's because that's where the relationship is happening. So we want to say to them, I appreciate you meeting with me today. Say it with empathy, say it with compassion. I'm really looking forward to helping you sell your home. Aim at the heart with the A. Even if you don't really mean it yet, maybe you're not that kind of person, it's going to set the tone the right way. This is a very valuable step. It also starts the meeting officially. So that's what you say. Then you need to talk about the time because, they may have thought this thing was going to last 10 minutes. Hopefully, when you set the appointment, you told them how long it was going to be. We have a tendency to say, like, it'll only be 15 minutes because we don't want to bother people. 15 minutes might be enough time for you to throw up all over them about all your information, but 15 minutes probably isn't enough time for them to ask all their questions. Always make sure your consultations allows way more time than what you need, and you can always just give them a range. Hey, typically these things run anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour. When you set the appointment, say that. Why? Because some people talk more than others, right? But you want to make sure you're giving them the time they need, even if your part only takes 15 minutes. So you confirm that time now because you don't want to be halfway through the meeting and they get up and have to run pick their kids up from school. Does the 90 minutes we set aside still work for you? 90 minutes is just something I threw out there. Typically, these consultations will go anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half. It's going to depend on how much you pack in, and we're going to go through that. Then you're going to talk about what you're there to talk about. You're not going to begin talking about it. You're just going to give the absolute 30,000-foot view highlights of what the meeting structure looks like. It's a concise agenda. Be careful. If you're a talker, you're going to want to go into it. Don't. It's real quick. Great. Our agenda today is simple. You could slide a copy of this to them. It's even better. First, I will tour your home. This is just an example. You don't have to follow this format. It's the one I like for a seller. First, I'm going to tour your home. Perhaps you've already done it at this point. I'll tour your home, then we'll discuss the local comps and determine a price. And finally, we'll have some paperwork to review and sign. Now, let me give you another way of saying that. Okay, that's pretty aggressive. You might want to say, great, our agenda today is simple. We've toured your home and I appreciate that. What I want to do is ask you a whole bunch of questions to really understand where you're at and where you're going. I personally like to say, I'm going to tell them, I'm going to ask them a bunch of questions. And we'll ask a bunch of questions. Then we'll discuss local comps, look at pricing. And if you want to move forward, we'll look at some paperwork and review and sign if you're ready at that point. The next step, discuss results, is really where you're going to tell them where the rubber meets the road. If there's a decision they need to make, think D as decision. If there's a decision they need to make today, then we want to set that up. It sounds like this. Ideally, by the end of the day, we'll have an agreed upon timeline, price, a list of to-dos put together, and all your paperwork done. That would be an example of that. Why? Why do we do that up front? Because there's a chance they might go, whoa, 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 I'm not ready to do that. My husband needs to come home first. Or whoa, 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 I can't do that alone. My mom's a part of this deal. Whatever it is, if they're not ready, we want to hear it here. Doesn't mean we pack up our stuff and leave the meeting, but it might mean that we say, no problem, let's go through everything we can and then set a day, date, and time when that person can be here to get back together. Sound good? Or maybe you go, hey, my bad for not letting you know what was going to be involved in this meeting beforehand. You want to reschedule for a time and they can be here and be a part of this process. The point is, up front, we want to let them know what you're going to be asking for at the end so it doesn't take them by surprise. You might even want to tell them right here up front, if you're not ready to make that decision today, it's okay. But either way, we will set an appointment to talk again in the future. Why? And I'll cover this at the end. You never want to leave a meeting open-ended. You never want to leave a meeting with, I'll call you or you call me. We always want to leave a meeting with a day, date, and time to talk again. And then we finally end with, does that sound good? We get them to agree to it. We want them involved. And then we give them the final question. Before we begin, what concerns or questions did you want to make sure we covered? And the reason for this is some people are what I call blurters. They can't think about anything because they've got something stuck in their head. A question, a worry, usually it's a worry, and they can't go through your process and pay attention until they've had this issue. And when you ask this, they'll go, I got to know right now. Like, I just need to know what's going to come out of pocket. You know, there's sometimes something like that you either need to address right now, or you need to put them at ease, letting them know that's a part of our presentation. Either way, you want to ask this up front, because a lot of times they got something else that's really a burning thing they got to talk about, and it needs to come out at the beginning. So I'm going to just back up here, kind of walk you through it. You can write your own. I'm going to send you a little worksheet, it has the letters, and you can write your own, but it's basically sounds like this. Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I appreciate you guys meeting with me today. I'm really looking forward to you, to helping sell your home with you for a great price. Does the 45 minutes we set aside still work for you guys? Great. If we need more time, I'm available longer than that if that works. Well, here's what we're going to do today. Our agenda is pretty simple. We're going to spend the first half of our meeting probably with me just asking you a lot of questions. I really want to understand what's important to you, what you're looking to do, all the particulars. Got a lot of questions to help understand what we need to accomplish here today that'll bring you the best value. Also, I'm going to walk through a little bit of how my process works, kind of show you step by step how I would help you should you choose me to be your agent. If all of that looks good, I'm on to D now. If all of that looks good, then I've got some easy stuff for you to kind of look at and sign. If you're not ready to sign that stuff, no problem. I will leave that with you, but we'll go ahead and schedule a date, and time for our next conversation. E, sound good? Great. Before we begin, what else do I need to add to this agenda? Is there anything else that you wanted me to add to this or anything I'm missing? No? Perfect. Let's get started. So what I've done there is I have set the table. And I'm here to tell you, after coaching and training many people for many years, doesn't make me an expert on all things, but I know a thing or two. Most people don't start that professionally and with that much leadership, and it's going to put them at ease. And if they got two agents waiting in the wings, or a sister-in-law, or somebody who also has a license waiting in the wings, this right here alone will probably go ahead and make them go, we're going to go with him. We're going to go with her, meaning you. We're going to go with you. Because it's just what leaders do. John Maxwell famously said, leaders know the way, leaders go the way, and leaders show the way. And this is doing just that. And it's very, very effective. Now, if you have any questions for me, if you could put them in the Q&A, as I won't be monitoring the chat much as we go through. Beverly, I did catch yours though. Do you start the conversation sitting down or standing? Given that this will be probably a 20-minute conversation, at least on the questions part, I would try to get them sitting down. Would be ideal. It's not necessary, but I would say if you set the table appropriately and you said, if we're going to be here for 45 minutes, you're probably going to want to be sitting. And so normally after maybe some small talk, I try to guide them to a desk, table, couch, something. All right. So that's a basic set the table. You can write your own script, but that's how it works. The place most people mess up is C and D. C is just the agenda. D is what they would need to do. It's the other shoe dropping, if you would. Right up front, letting them know this is what you will need to do if this goes well. So it doesn't surprise them or you at the end when you ask them to sign something, give you a check, whatever it may be. All right. After you've done that, because we told them we were going to ask them a bunch of questions, we're going to ask them a bunch of questions. The point of consultation, think of it this way. Divide your consultations into two parts. The first part is understanding everything you can. The second part is telling them why you think you're a fit for them. It should be no surprise then that everything you tell them why you should be working with them will be fit and married to what you learned in the beginning. When you flip flop that, you oftentimes shoot yourself in the foot. You stick your foot in the mouth because you say, here's all the reasons you should work for me. And they go, those are all the reasons I didn't want to work with you. So we want to do all the questions first. Should be a lay down sale if you know everything about them. You never want to figure things out about somebody by just pitching. Instead, ask. Stephen Covey, who wrote 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, said, seek first to understand rather than to be understood. It totally makes sense. And by the way, all good leadership and all good selling is just that, asking questions and then helping. You should be terrified to show up and just give a 30-second pitch to somebody without asking. I'd rather ask 25 seconds of questions and give a 5-second pitch than give a 30-second pitch and hope for the best. Because discovery is the sales process. So here's 5 keys to a proper discovery meeting. We've set the table. Now they're sitting in front of us, looking at us with smiles. They're all at ease because we've properly set the table. They got their notepad in hand. You've probably got a fancy little folder with some great information. And you need to ask them great questions. What do those questions need to be about? Well, you need to make sure that you know who you're dealing with. Like, are these the people that are actually making the decision? Because a lot of times there's other decision makers involved. So you're going to want to ask them, like, are you guys the only ones involved in this decision? Don't be surprised if they don't tell you that they got a family member that's key in this decision. It would sure be great if they could also have a relationship with you. You want to understand their decision-making process. How do you figure that out? You ask them. Talk to me a little bit about how you're hoping to go about making this decision. What's important to you in the decision-making process? Don't just say what's important to you about the home. That's what we always want to do. Tell me what you need. What's your dream home? I don't like the what's your dream home question. You know why? Because you're not going to go find their dream home most likely. So instead of saying, tell me about your dream home that I'm not going to go find for you, instead say, talk to me a little bit about how you go about making decisions. Talk to me a little bit about your process. Then, after you understand a little bit about how they go about this, you're going to want to uncover their needs, their wants, and their concerns. Notice I didn't say dream home. I said, what do you need? What do you want? What are your concerns? I want them to be discerning and rational right up front. I don't want them to be overly optimistic and dreaming right up front. If they want to buy a home and they're sitting in front of you, you don't need to get them super excited and emotional. You actually need to get them rational if you want this to go well. So uncover, how do you guys kind of go about making your decision? How have you been looking for a home already? What work have you done already? That's kind of the number 2 question. What kind of work have you done already? If you want a better way of asking that. They'll tell you, oh, we've been on Zillow. We've been hunting around, we've just been driving around some. We talked to a lender, whatever. Well, what are your needs? Well, we got to have this. All right. That's needs category. Take the notes right in front of them. Needs. What are your wants? Well, we'd like to have. What are your must-haves? What are your like-to-haves? Say that to them. Get them thinking in that way right up front. What are your concerns? Oh, affordability, HOAs. You want to divide it into these 3 categories: needs, wants, concerns, must-haves, like-to-haves, worries, if you want to put it that way. Then you got to ask the tough question about timeline. And always want to divide timeline up into 3 categories. Talk to me about your ideal, your realistic, and your acceptable timeline. Or what's your good, better, best timeline? Because sometimes people tell you, like, oh, if we could just sell our home right now in 30 days and have another home ready to go to, and we could move out of this one on this weekend and then move into this one the very next day. Like, it's that challenging, like if in the perfect situation. So you want to ask it, like, what's the best situation? What's like a necessary, what's good, what's better, what's best, or what's ideal, what's realistic, and what's acceptable. Because there are probably some deal breakers in there with the timeline. You want to make sure you figure that out. Some people are like, we don't really care when, it's more about other things. So we're kind of getting the priorities out in this. And then you need to talk budget. You need to talk budget, of course. And I would use the same pattern with budget. Don't ever say to someone, what budget do you want to stay under? Because even though they may have that hard and fast number, it's got to be under 300,000. That puts a lot of pressure on you. And so the minute now you find something for 305, they're going to go, see, we told them 300 and now they went over. And people are real suspicious, especially early on of agents, with agents on that. They think like they don't want to tell you their best number because they think you're going to go find it because you get more commission. And they don't trust it. Trust me. They don't trust you when you tell them that it's not about that for you, whatever. So I always like to ask budget in the same way. Kind of what's your ideal budget? What's realistic and what's kind of acceptable? Or what's good, better, best? Like what's a price range you want to stay within? Kind of worst to best case. Ask budget questions in terms of range, ask timeline and sort of range, kind of find the non-negotiables and the best in between. You're going to do a lot better working that way than you're going to be like, what budget you want to stay under? When do you need to move by? What's most important to you? What's your dream home? That's not really going to manage expectations well. So you kind of do it this way, it'll be a lot better for you. Trust me. Then you got to ask the questions, which means you got to know the questions. So I suggest you sit down and write 10 questions, and I have some I'll be happy to share with you in the follow-up email. I think I have a couple documents of 10 good questions to ask in a consultation. I believe I have that there somewhere. I will send that to you if I can find it. I should be able to now that I've promised it. Know your top 10 questions, though. You want to ask the same questions in pretty much the same order every time. And here's why. Because they don't know how many times you've done this. That's not really the issue. The issue is if you're thinking about what you're going to ask, you're not listening. You need to be actively listening. You need to be so hyper focused on their answer so you know what follow-up questions to dig deeper with. And you can only do that if you're not trying to think about asking impressive questions. So even if you have them written in front of you, that's fine to read them, but practice them. And if you ask a question and every time it's awkward, well, then you can go back and you can change it. What you don't want to do is like, this time I asked these questions and it went well. Next time I asked a different batch of questions and it went okay. And the next time I asked a different batch of questions and it didn't go so well. If we're working off like a top 10 questions list, the ones that don't go well will stand up. The ones that stand out, the ones that do go well will stand out. And you'll be able to kind of get that 10 questions. That's kind of the ringer every time. That's the goal. All active listening is whenever they say something, you're repeating back to them what you heard them say in your own words. And it's kind of a truth serum. So people will give you not necessarily entirely true answers, just kind of human nature, oftentimes just to impress you or because they think it just sounds better. And so active listening kind of diffuses that. So for example, you could say to someone, so talk to me a little bit about location. What's most important to you? And someone might say, we really want to be kind of close to the beach. It's why we moved here. And you'll go, okay, great. So you're beach folks. You want to live near the water. And they'll go, well, I mean, it's really not as important as like, say, school zones and stuff like that. I mean, as long as we can get there in 20 or 30 minutes, we're fine. Oh, great. You've opened up the entire county for us. But if you wouldn't have done that, we would have been thinking they're 5 minutes from the sand. But in their mind, being from some other place, 20 minutes is close. And that's the whole county, right? So that's the type of stuff that you want to repeat back what you heard them say in your own words, and also ask follow-up questions. Anything anyone says is important. And so if someone says something that sounded like it had some weight to it, say, tell me a little bit more about that. Or that's interesting. I want to write that down. How did you come to that conclusion? Kind of hunting for the why. You can only do that when you already know your question. You ask it, they fire back something with a little weight on it. It's not just a simple kind of lightweight answer. Something's got a little meat on it. You want to unpack those. That's what active listening is. Oh, that's interesting. So you said you want to live in a good school zone. Talk to me a little bit about what a good school zone looks like for you. What we tend to do is we want them to think we're on the same page with them. We try to impress them with this, and it's not impressive. We'll go, oh, good school zone. Yeah, that's important to me too. I know where all the good schools are. I'll be able to help you. I'm the best. That's actually garbage. What you want to say instead is good school zone. I know nothing. Well, don't tell them you know nothing. We'll go good school zone. Talk to me a little bit about how you determine what a good school zone looks like. And you'll be surprised. People don't make decisions the way you make decisions. And so trying to impress them that you're all just the same doesn't work. You just stop doing that. You don't have to be just like the people you're selling to. As a matter of fact, you'll be better if you're just a good leader and not just like them, because then you're going to get more referrals. And I am really on my soapbox today. We're already 40 minutes in. So we're going to get near to a break. It's taken a little bit longer, but hopefully you're finding value in this. And then use empathy when appropriate. What's that mean? It means if they say anything emotional or they act emotional, you need to slow down and identify with the emotion. It sounds like this. They don't have to be emotional. They can just use emotional language. So they'll say something like, oh gosh, I absolutely can't stand traffic. It makes me so angry. And instead of going, I hate traffic too, that's rapport building, you're going to want to use empathy language. Like, I can completely appreciate why traffic would frustrate you. Absolutely. Yeah. Let me make sure I take note of that. Anytime someone uses emotional language or acts emotional, that's the punctuation on the sentence. That's the exclamation point, the period, the asterisk. So what we need to do is write that stuff down and empathize. It doesn't mean we have to validate what they're saying, but we need to validate that they were heard. Oh, absolutely. I can hear that's important to you. And you write it down. And then always ask more than you need to know. I have watched realtor consultations take 5 minutes. How many bedrooms? How many baths? What square footage? What neighborhood? What's your price? I'll be back with some offers in a moment. Yeah, I didn't need you for that, right? You're just a transaction coordinator. We got to bring more than that. You got to get to the heart. Why will you be happy 6 months from today? And that's sometimes the best question to start off with. 6 months from today, if we were sitting here having this conversation and you moved into your new home, what's different about your life? Why are you happier? What's going well? I want to hear the heart as to what you need on this. I don't just want to hear square footage, because I'm going to go find exactly what you're looking for and you're still not going to like it. And I'm going to be frustrated with you because you wanted something more than square footage. And if you do this, guys, you are going to stand out beyond 95% of the agents. Trust me, I know. A lot of people don't do this because they don't put it as their process. They just try to be buddies with everybody, and that isn't enough. Let's take a break. That was a lot. That was a lot of meat. We got a little bit left, a little bit of meat left. I think we're making okay time. I'm going to go ahead and take a break, grab a coffee. We will come back at 2:15. If you have questions in the meantime, drop them into the Q&A. But I will be back at 2:15 Eastern here, and then we'll finish what we have going through. In the meantime, go ahead and get your questions in, and I'll see you guys in about 4 minutes. All right. Thanks for being patient. I know I was a minute late. The Keurig is required when I go over 45 minutes. All right. So I see questions are coming in. I will get to those for sure. Let's take some now. Let's see. Do I have any tips on negotiating broker fees as a new agent? Yes. And a lot could be said about that. I'll just give you one. Kind of a principle of negotiation. Not one of my favorite principles of negotiation, but a principle of negotiation is never give anything away without getting something in return. And that sounds really selfish. Sometimes what we're getting back in return is bond or trust. So it doesn't have to be financial. But if you're going to ever lower your fee, then find out what the benefit is going to be. Meaning, let's say, you charge, they don't like it when I talk about commission percentages on these trainings. I can get in trouble for that. So I'll just say, whatever your percentage is, let's say you lower it 1%. They go, can you do this for less? So 2 quick tips. First tip is always ask what they had in mind. So someone will say, like, is there any way you might be willing to negotiate some or lower some of your fees? You always want to fire back with, instead of going, well, maybe if, or what, always fire back with this, just like reflexively, instinctively train yourself to say this in any negotiation. When someone asks you to lower price, go, what did you have in mind? What did you have in mind? That's always your response, because you want to seek first to understand. I've had people come up to me and say, can you lower your price? And I'll go, what did you have in mind? And they were like, I don't know, like $10. Like, yes. if that's going to get the deal, yes. Yeah, it'll get the deal. Okay. So always ask what they have in mind first. Let them kind of name the price. If they're the one asking you, don't feel like you're suddenly put in a corner. What did you have in mind? And sometimes people will be harsh negotiators and they'll go, well, it depends. What are you willing to do? And that's a negotiation game. And so when that happens, or when they tell you what they had in mind, tip number 2 is always say, if and when I were to do that for you, kind of what are you getting from that? Other than saving money, what is the benefit to you in that? And listen to the benefit. And then if you have an equal benefit you could ask for in a different category, take it. Here's what I mean. If they go, can you lower your fees 1%? You can do the math and go, okay, that's going to amount to say $3,500. So if I'm going to make $3,500 less and doing the same service I would normally do, would it be all right if I don't focus on some of the Facebook advertising I would normally do? I go, well, what do you mean? Well, as you saw in my presentation, I do I run Facebook ads for you, and I set up a social media presence, and I do open houses every weekend and all of that. If we're going to lower my fees, by the way, happy to do that. But I'm just wondering, would you be okay if I say did it half as much on the social media, maybe half as much on the open houses? Some people will be like, yeah, I didn't really care about that stuff anyway. I thought it was weird. Okay, then it's okay for me to lower my price. So that's kind of what you want to do in negotiation is first find out what they had in mind before you start talking about numbers, and then kind of move into, if I'm going to give you less value, or I'm going to give you less, if I'm going to charge you less, then let me try to find a way over here where I can kind of take something away. So in a sense, your price never changes. Instead, what begins changing is what you do for them. And you have to be careful with that, right? On one hand, you need to be careful with that. On the other hand, you need to not be desperate. Just because someone asks for less money, no. Because what are you going to do in this whole presentation? You're going to show them all the stuff you're going to do for them to try to win them over. And then they're going to turn around and say, will you do all that stuff you promised for less? Chances are, hear me on this, chances are some of that stuff you were saying you were going to do for them doesn't matter to them. So what you want to do in negotiation is find out what you can take off the plate. Ultimately, the things you're taking off the plate don't matter to them, so they win. It's a win-win for them. I didn't need you to do that anyway, and I'm getting this thing for less money. Great. But from a sense of credibility, it matters a lot for you, right? I'm not just going to lower my price because I want the deal. I'm going to lower my price because I'm doing less. If that makes sense. Now that's ideal. We could spend a lot more time talking about how to kind of get there. But that's the basics I would give you on that. As a new agent, those principles take you a long way. All right, let me bring my presentation back up here. Ooh, where were we at? We're towards the end here. All right. So we said discovery is the sales process. We said that's the stuff you got to know. Questions. Anytime you ask questions, you want to determine the implications of working together and of not working together. What's that mean? We've set the table in our consultation. We've asked a bunch of questions. We really are working with, what matters to them, what their needs, wants, concerns are. We got it all out on the table. What we need to find out is, now that we know who they are so much and what's important to them, if they work with us, what's going to help them the most given their needs, wants, and concerns. Therefore, if they didn't work with us, they would not get those things. And in terms of you and your mindset and your value, you need to think that way. Not every agent is the same. Not every agent is the same. Who is the agent people should be working with? Guys, maybe not you. The agent they should be working with is the agent who best fits what they're looking for. Since our consultation is built first on discovery, we've gotten all that out now. Now we can see and determine the implications of working with me and not working with me. If you sit down with someone and they're like, I want someone who's a marketing genius, who's doing all this Facebook stuff, who's doing videos, I want drone stuff, I want all this, and you go, okay, I think I can figure that out for you. If that's what you want, I'll do anything you want me to do. I would say, if you don't know how to do that stuff, go, I'm probably not your agent. Get out of there, because the implications of working with you are not good. Now, I'm not saying you can't go learn that stuff. By all means, I'm not saying go find them a better agent in every case. There may be a better agent out there, and I assume there probably is. My point is that you need to be, you're asking enough questions and enough of the right questions when you begin to see the advantage of being with you. You're not just another agent, because you're going to make that known. That's all I'm trying to say. And they need to hear that from you after you've asked a bunch of questions. And you want to tell them the value of working with you in dollars and cents as much as possible, in quantities as much as possible. Not just, I'm really helpful, I'll do anything for you, I'm available 24/7. Instead, you want to say things like, you said this or that was important to you. I do this or that 5 times a week. You said posting on social media was important. we're going to list your home on social media and I'm going to post on it 3 times a week. You always want to quantify wherever you can. All right, I know questions are rolling in and we will get to them, I promise. All right, capabilities presentation. So we've done the discovery. We set the table, asked a bunch of questions, and started to see, based on the questions we've asked, where we're going to be able to help them the most. You should be at the end of your discovery process getting excited. That's how you know you've done a good job. If you don't know enough that you can see the path for helping them, you got more questions to ask. That's my point of the implications. Okay. Once you kind of have it out and you go, man, I see what they want. I know what they want. I know what they need. I know what their concerns are. I'm excited about helping them. Now we can make a presentation. And your presentation is designed to go through everything you just uncovered and check all the boxes. You don't have to sell them more than that. You don't have to tell them you're all of that in a bag of chips. All you got to tell them is I'm all of that. The bag of chips is great. I'm not saying don't throw it in, but be careful. It may water down your value. If you've done a good job of discovery, hear me on this. I watch people shoot themselves in the foot on this every time. If you've done a good job of understanding what the person wants, your job is to show them how you're going to fulfill their wants. That's your job. All the other bonuses and all the other stuff and all that other junk you have piled into your folder, that's there. That's bonus. You can point them to it, but they're going to make their decision based on what they already told you. Be careful to move about moving too far away from what you just uncovered. All right. So ensure your pitch carries these 5 keys. I've already said it. Prioritize your strengths towards their needs. Don't lie. But if they said the most important thing to them is somebody who's going to spend the time with them, then you're going to talk about how you spend time with them, unless you don't, and you're going to tell them you're not the agent for them. But you're going to tell them, hey, you said this. You're literally going to go down your list like this. You said this was important to you. This is how I do this. You said this was important to you. This is how I do that. And not just tell them how you do it, but quantify it. Don't just say, oh, I do that really good. You're going to say, this is how I do it. You're going to give them process. And when you've said that to them, you're going to say to them, how does that sound to you? Oh, that's good. And ideally, you'll use a scale of like 1 to 10. On a scale of 1 to 10, how good does that sound based on what you said you needed? Oh, it's a 10 for us. Great. It's a 5 for us. Well, let's look at it a little bit more. What's it missing? So when you explain your pitch, your presentation is nothing more than showing what you do matched to the needs you just uncovered. And then you're going to confirm on a scale of 1 to 10, each of those things, how does it sound? This is called selling by the numbers. It works really, really well. I didn't invent it. You get that feedback from them. What did you like about that? What was it missing? And again, they're the ones who gave you the list of needs based on your discovery. All you're doing is saying, this is how I plan on doing it. How's that sound? Scale of 1 to 10. What do you like? What don't you like? Check the boxes. And if there's something specific they tell you, you write that thing down so they see, I got it. Cut the fluff. Telling them a million other things you do that they didn't say was important to them, show it. You can show it. Don't prioritize it. Cut the fluff. And again, the scale of 1 to 10 is the truth serum here. Oh, you said you wanted someone who is going to hold great open houses. Would it be all right if I shared with you about how my open house process works? Great. Well, here's my open house process. Bing, 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 bing. On a scale of 1 to 10, how's that sound? Oh, it's an 8. What was it missing? Oh, you wanted to see more signs in the yard. Okay, let me make a note of that. We'll get that done. This is how you close, guys. How do I close? If you have conducted a proper discovery meeting and presented your capabilities towards what's uncovered, like I already said, all you need to ask is, well, looks like we've covered everything. Are you ready to get started? That's it. There's no fancy closing technique. If you ever have to read a book on closing techniques, you need to throw it away and go read a book on discovery techniques. Go read a book on asking questions if you're having a hard time closing. So what's a D.D.T? This is vital. Matter of fact, if you forget everything else I told you today, take this with you. It'll change your life. Once you've closed the deal is when the relationship actually begins. So what we need to do is always have a D.D.T. I call it D.D.T or die. A day, date, and time on your calendar and on theirs, which shows your next step. So if they go, you know what, that's been a really good presentation and we need to think about it. Of course you do. And I want to give you all the time you need. I know you're busy and I can get pretty busy. Why don't we schedule a day, date, and time to come together again? That way we're not playing phone tag, etc. So you get a day, date, and time on your calendar and theirs. What a DDT isn't is a I'll call you next week or you call me next week. That is not a DDT. A DDT is a day, date, and time on both your calendars. By the way, if you're dealing with a seller, I suggest you have a standing DDT every week. How about every Wednesday at 7 p.m. from 7 to 7:15, we have a call to review where we're at, where we're going, make sure we're on the same page. That way they're not calling you 1,000 times during the week, you're calling them 1,000 times during the week, you're playing phone tag. Standing appointment. Most people will hold the stuff they want to talk to you about till that appointment. Of course, you can let them know you're available outside those appointment hours, but to have a standing appointment will free you up tremendously. You can do it both buyers and sellers. Let's go ahead and set a standing appointment now. Of course, you can call me anytime, but let's go ahead and set a standing appointment every week or every few days to keep this in front of us. Guys, this is a game changer if you do it. By the way, same goes for selling. If you ever meet anyone at any time in town, wherever, that expresses some sort of interest with working with you, never again say, I'll stalk you next week. I'll call you later. You call me. None of that. If there's interest and you're having a conversation right now, get a D.D.T. Set the appointment. No more chasing. It doesn't work. If people won't give you a DDT, it means they weren't serious. You want to avoid those people. It's a dead end. It's a time waster. All right. Only two outcomes to any interaction you have with someone. It's a yes and a DDT to move forward, or it's a no and we're done. Because we got to have real action in this business. Maybes are killers for the entrepreneur. Here's a way you can say it. In closing, it's been great speaking with you today. I'll put together that list of comps. I know you have a lot to do to finish your move out. Let's go ahead and schedule our next conversation for Monday the 8th at 2:30. Does that work for you? Great. I'll send you an invite to your email address. Oh, I don't use a calendar. That's all right. I'll send it to you anyway. But what if you don't use a calendar? This sounds kind of harsh. Get a calendar or get out of real estate. But I kind of mean it. You're a professional. You're leading people. You need to be organized, even if they aren't. Use a calendar. Write down DDTs. Send them emails confirming or send them electronic calendar invites through Outlook or Gmail. All right. We are almost to the end here, guys. Bringing it in for a landing. Get your Q&A in, but we're coming to a close here. To ensure you don't get monopolized, I've already really said this, by those you're trying to lead and help through this consultation process, you really want to establish a standing D&T, like I said. And you want to lay out your process from now until 6 months past close in writing. And what I mean is, in that fancy folder you guys bring to these interactions, there's two pockets inside these folders. On the left side or the right side, doesn't matter. We'll just say on the left side, we're going to call that the important pocket. And the right side, we're going to call the junk pocket. On the left side, you want to have like your contact information in there, maybe an MLS form on the home, and your process written out. On the right side is where you can put all the menus for local restaurants and all that junk in there, every title company known to man, all that stuff that you are given to give out. And you say, oh, you're in my folder. I refer you, your list of contractors, whatever. Put that on the right-hand side. And when you hand them the folder, you're going to say, this is your reference material in the right pocket. The left pocket is the vital stuff, like my contact info, the MLS listing, your offer, whatever. The left side is going to be your important stuff, and you're going to keep this with you. Make sure on that left side you have your process written out. What's your process look like? It looks like checkboxes or steps that says things like consultation, searching for home, making offer, offer accepted, inspection window. Lay out the steps they're going to go through. Closing table, follow-up meeting, 6-month follow-up meeting, even the calls you're going to make to them after this is done, you put in there. I visit your home housewarming party, whatever your process is, the process they're going to go through from today at the consultation till 6 months after this close, move. All that stuff, you want to put it in order, timelines where you can write them in, such as a typical inspection window or whatever. Put those things in order so that they can see where they're at. Leaders make people feel comfortable with where they're at in a process. And what most agents do is they sit down and they vomit all over people as to what the process is. I don't care how many times they've sold a home before. It's confusing. Give them your process. Let them know I'm guiding you through this. All right. That was the bulk of what I had for you guys today. I'm sure it's left some questions. So get your questions in the Q&A. All right. First question. During the consultation, find out what they expect you to do. Yes, that good comment, Beverly. Absolutely. Managing expectations is what this is all about. We manage expectations by first gauging expectations. By the way, you can't exceed expectations if you haven't first met expectations, and you can't meet expectations if you haven't first gauged expectations. Sitting down with everyone and promising them the sun, moon, and stars and doing your best to meet it, even if you do bring them the sun, moon, and stars, you're only meeting expectations at that point. So whenever someone says, can you do this or that for me? Don't go, yes, I'll do it right away and as soon as possible because I want you to like me. Instead, you always want to fire back with, when were you hoping to have that by? Oh, in the next week or two. Oh, because you're going out of town. Okay. Well, it's a good thing I didn't try to jump through hoops and kill myself to get it to you. Very, very important in real estate. All right, that was a lot of content, probably the longest training I've had here in a while. Hopefully it was helpful. You are going to get a copy of the recording. You will get the slides and a couple of handouts, and I think I have a list of questions and a set the table worksheet and some follow-up videos. I will get that to you in the next couple of days. What did I miss, guys? What are your questions? By the way, a lot of you are new at real estate. You might not even know what to ask. You can ask me anything about real estate. It doesn't have to be just consultation related, and I will give you my opinion. All right, let me look at the questions as they come in. Yes. So about the broker fees questions, what I meant about broker fees, the broker charges to the sales agent. They have a set amount they charge. Yeah. Asking to lower them. Yeah. That's a good question. So in my experience as an agent trying to get brokers to lower their fees with you, it's all, what have you done for me lately kind of thing. So 2 words of advice on that. One, if you're going to approach them and ask them to charge you less, be willing to give up some of the resources they give you. So maybe their offer right now is they give you a CRM and they give you leads and they give you advertising and they give you marketing or whatever. They give you a bunch of stuff. Look and see what you're using. And when you approach them and saying if they charge you less, tell them like, and you don't have to give me these things anymore because they're already investing in those things. That may save them some dollars. Just kind of tell them, ask them if they can reallocate those dollars, put it in that way. That's one thing. The other thing is that's the best. Honestly, I know it's probably not what you want to hear, but that's the best conversation to have after you've capped, if you have a cap, or after you would cap in most places. As a new agent, if you haven't really produced and you're asking them to lower fees, they'll probably just tell you to kick rocks. Unfortunately, it's really, you got to show that you're producing, not that you have potential to produce. So that's a better conversation. You have much more leverage if you've sold some stuff, made some money. You're kind of the golden child of the month. That's when you want to have that conversation because brokers really don't make that much money on you guys, unfortunately. They've pretty much priced themselves out of making tons of money. And different brokerages have different models, right? You've got the volume brokers, they charge little, get a lot of agents. You've got the ones that give you a lot of training, but they charge for it. You've got some that are more boutique. They're all different in their model. So there's not really a straight answer for that question. It really kind of depends on their model. But like in any negotiation, you want to have the high ground, kind of coming in saying, look what I've done. Could you sweeten the pot? And just be sympathetic to them. Again, most brokers aren't getting rich off of you guys. Not unless they have like a lot of performing agents. So if you're in a smaller brokerage, I'd go easy on them. And look and see what, don't just, just be careful. Just be careful. There's always a better deal out there. There's a lot of value from brokerages if you have a good relationship. If your broker doesn't do anything for you at all, and it's just a financial relationship, then you really got nothing to lose, but just understand they're probably not making much off you either. Hopefully that helps. What other questions you guys got? answer anything you got. Marketing questions. I know some of you folks in here today. The problem with these webinars, I do worry that you guys will just like put me in the background while you surf social media, which is fine. This is long today. Appreciate all the good comments and feedback. All right, I'll give you guys a couple more minutes to type in your questions, or else we will end this thing early, which I never mind doing. Any other final questions about real estate at all? A lot of you said you were new agents. So I will tell you right now, you have got to think about your business as a business. You got to grow it. You got all the relationships you make right now are going to be what's feeding you for the next couple of years. Don't look for the low-hanging fruit. Don't just look for the person who's ready to jump in and lease, or ready to jump in and sell or buy right now. You, by all means, hopefully you find some of those folks. I know you need them. But my point is, build relationships, build it through the consultation, provide that value, and then maintain those relationships by continuing to call those people. It's going to probably take you 9 months to a year to kind of develop that book of business. But if you cultivate those relationships by adding value through something like a consultation, you're going to get a lot further. A consultation where you, and I know I didn't really get into this too much. So when you make your capabilities presentation, what are you really doing for them? Well, you really are showing them, even if they're not ready to buy or sell now. We'll take a listing, for example. You're really showing them what their home is worth, why you came up with that number, what you would do to market that home, and figuring out with them what the outcome of that would be for them. And they can take that information and sell their home in a year. Doesn't matter. You've proven value to them. You need to be doing that. Get a list of contractors. While you're doing all this training and going to all this networking and stuff, get a list of contractors. The way I tell my clients to do it is, when you sit down with somebody, you need to say this to them: I am your home asset manager. Think of yourself as like a financial planner. They manage all your finances. You have a financial question, you call your finance guy, right? You're their home asset manager. You need a new fence? Call the agent. I know 3 fence contractors, have already vetted them. You need a roof? Call me. You need pressure washing? Call me. You need to sell your home? Call me. You want to invest in real estate? Call me. I'm a home asset manager. Refer me to your friends and family. I'm your person. Here's my card. I'm your go-to. I'm not just the person who manages the transaction when you're ready to buy or sell, as most agents market themselves as, and that's why they struggle. You need to be the home asset manager, family doctor, family attorney, family accountant, family real estate agent. That's how it needs to be. And if that's the way it is, then you're seeing them frequently. Your financial planner may only sell you more life insurance and mutual funds once every few years, but they call you every 6 months. And that's how you need to be too. And they need to know it's coming. You need to be checking on their house. You need to be updating. Hey, did you do any updates? You did some lighting updates? Let me put that in your file. If you do that and you maintain these relationships, once you start getting some transactions under your belt, you're going to get there. You also need to be asking for referrals. What do you offer? You offer the consultation. Equip people to offer the consultation. Go on my YouTube channel. I have a long training on there, but it's worth it, on how to sell, how to do referral selling. That's kind of the module that would be attached to the consultation. You set that up in the consultation. So go watch that training. I'll link it in the follow-up email about referral selling. That's where it's at. 90% of your business is going to come from past business or from people you've met. So you need to do that. Along with referral selling comes strategic partnerships. You need to be asking to be in the family, right? Who's the family attorney? Can you introduce me to them? Who's the family accountant? Can you introduce me to them? You need to have relationships with people who constantly feed you, not just the next person looking to sell their home, but people who deal with people who sell homes. For your new agents, man, I'm telling you, that stuff is the stuff people don't do, and it's the gold. Ooh, a lot of questions came in off all that. All right, let's take them one by one. What advice would you give to a new sales agent? That's the advice. What I just said. That's exactly the important thing. that referral selling, that being the home asset manager, that asking for strategic partnerships, attorneys, all that kind of stuff, and maintaining those relationships. That's the most important thing. Next question. As I said, I'm new, have a hard time getting on the web, meaning I don't do much on Facebook and such. Can you give me some ideas how to overcome this? Actually, I'll tell you, if you're not big on social media and it's not your thing, don't do it. You need to do what you're good at. If you're good at meeting people in person, get out and meet people in person. If you're good at sitting behind a computer and you're good at social media, learn how to turn that into appointments. Don't just kick out content. Some of you guys, like, I love it. I mean, I understand you're just doing what everyone else is doing. Like, you've seen it, you're hopeful, you believe it's going to work. I'm not trying to be harsh on you, but a lot of you just put out content like crazy and it doesn't turn into anything. You got to learn like Facebook advertising. You got to learn how to turn content into appointments. And that's going to happen not from just posting a bunch of stuff on your Facebook business page that doesn't get much traction. You really need to advertise an offer. Again, my YouTube channel, I've got tons and tons and tons of content on that. Real estate specific. I have a whole real estate playlist that goes through that. So if you're not big on Facebook, and you're new, man, I would tell you, don't even start finding out how to do all that now. And it's not, what are you good at? If it's like meeting people, networking, do that. Plenty of that. If it's open houses, go do open houses. Learn the other stuff once you've kind of cemented what you're already good at. Don't learn an entirely new skill to get into this game. Leverage the skills you already have would be my advice for you there. Let's see. Beverly says, I had a listing appointment this week. Checked IMAP. Grantor is the person I'm meeting with. The guarantor. I think you mean the guarantor is a realty. Yeah. Should I be meeting with that person? It's a tough question, Beverly. Yes. Meet with them, do the full discovery, but get a clear D.D.T, a follow-up. That's going to hold them accountable. Don't just have a meeting and give them all your information and all your value and to just hope that they call you back. Go and find everything you can out. Sometimes when you're working through an influencer, you just need to find out what they're interested in, what the other person's interested in, get all the information you can working through that influencer, but get a D.D.T, and hopefully that D.D.T will involve more people. But just get a D.D.T and let them know at the beginning of the meeting that you want to set up a follow-up meeting and make sure that they're okay with that. If you're worried it's going to be a waste of time, try to do a little bit of a little pre-qual over the phone, maybe call them up on the phone and just say, hey, what are you hoping to take away from our meeting so I'm prepared? And see if they really sound like they're serious about going forward, or if they're just trying to get some stuff out of you. Just kind of maybe have a little call and kind of say, I want to set our agenda. What were you hoping to take away from the meeting? Kind of maybe pre-qual it a little bit, but you'll probably be fine with having the meeting. All right. Advice for someone trying to get into the real estate business. The main advice I have for anyone that's new in real estate is to have a predictable success process, meaning you need to know every single week. You got to think of it like you're going to work, right? It's a job. You got to know what you're going to do. Like, this is how I'm going to grow my business. Open houses, ads, strategic partnerships, referrals, whatever. Kind of come up with what you're good at and say, this is how I intend to grow my business. You got to know what you're going to do. Then you got to know like how you're going to do each of those things. Okay, I'm going to do open houses. What's my open house process? Okay, I'm going to do some social media. What's my social media process? Then you got to know how much of those things you're going to do. Like, am I going to do one open house a month? Am I going to do 3 open houses a month? You got to kind of figure out like how much. And then lastly, you got to figure out when. You got to get the old calendar out and you got to say, this is when I'm going to do it. You should never have a blank calendar day, right? You wake up every day and you go, this is what I'm going to do, how I'm going to do it, how much I'm going to do, and when I'm going to do it. And then as you do those things, you kind of put tallies. Okay, I made 10 calls today and I set 1 appointment. Okay, I made 30 calls today. I set 1 appointment. Okay, I'm calling FSBOs. I'm not setting any appointments. I'm calling expireds. I'm not setting any appointments. I'm not going to keep doing those things then. Okay, I'm having open houses and I'm getting a consultations. The whole point of your marketing process is one and one point only, and that's to get consultations. Consultation is the beginning of the sales process. All the marketing, everything you do, every person you meet, every advertisement you do, every networking meeting you go to is all intended to get people into the consultation. Stop giving free advice. Get them into the consultation. Go from there. And then follow up with the people you've had the consultation with over and over and over again. And that's how real estate works. It's how the business has always worked. It's how it always will work. It's built on relationships with people you provide or have provided value with. It's not for running around as a human billboard saying, if you're ready to buy real estate in 30 days, call me. That doesn't help. So you got to develop that marketing process. What you're going to do, how much you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and when you're going to do it. And you got to go to work every week and you got to pack that calendar and track and tweak what you're doing. I walk you through that process on my YouTube channel. Again, I have a thing there called the Predictable Success Process in Real Estate, where I walk you through that process. Go check it out. Step by step, give you the spreadsheet and everything for doing it. What would be a good email to send to a possible lead that you only have an email address and you want the phone number or response on your email from a potential client? That's a good question. You got good questions, guys. So kind of a generic, kind of general intro email I would send is, I would tell them, I believe based on the interaction we have, I might be able to be a resource for you. I just got a couple questions to find out if that's it, and take like one or two of your discovery questions. Maybe talk to me a little bit about what you're looking to do and how you're looking to get there. I think I can be a resource for you. You just want to kind of open yourself up as a resource. Hey, I know you were looking for some questions or some help in real estate, or, hey, I know you had some questions on real estate. I could be a resource for you, but then start the conversation with a couple questions. The best question is always either talk to me a little bit about what you're looking to do instead of how I can help. Talk to me a little bit about what you're looking to do, get you further. Or the famous question of, if we were, 6 months from today, where are you hoping to be at and how did you get there? That's better to ask in person. Over email, I would typically say, what are you looking to do? Not how can I help you? That sounds like a typical customer service question. How can I help you? But instead, describe for me a little bit, good open-ended language like that. Describe for me a little bit of what you're looking to accomplish, and I'm sure I can be a resource for you. Position yourself as a resource, not as a salesperson. And that usually goes pretty well. It's hard, guys. It is hard starting off because you got to know a lot of people. And if you don't know people, you got to meet a lot of people. It takes time to do all of that. I understand that struggle. And that's why your weeks need to be meaty, meaning you can come up with a million things you're going to do, try to grow your business, but you got to be your own sales manager. You've got to track and tweak what you're doing. If you're not tracking what you're doing, but you feel busy, you might just be a busy body. And entrepreneurs, guys, we fall into this trap. Welcome to being an entrepreneur. Like, that's how it is. Like, we wake up every day, we do a million things. We're trying new things all the time. We're creative as all get out. We don't really necessarily always get a lot of traction. Welcome to being an entrepreneur. You're right. You're in the right place. So, you got to do some of that boring business stuff, like tracking what you did. What did I get? Should I keep doing it? Track and tweak. And my predictable success process is just really a kind of a dummy way of doing it. Just really simple. Works for me. I don't like things too complicated. So if you go, I'll make sure I'll attach some of those in the follow-up email. Some of those, they'll be worth, if you're new at real estate, it'd be worth watching those. I think it'll give you more of a system. All right. You guys have been great. Look at that. Great questions. Got to the 2-hour mark. I'm going to drink my coffee. Look at that. You guys are giving each other some good advice. I'll leave this thing on so you can keep typing in the chat. Hey, Elle is on the webinar. Good to see you, Elle. That is good advice, Elle. Yeah, mentor. Mentor and coach, two different things, right? Like, think of a coach as somebody who's like going to give you like a process, like a sales manager. Some brokers are good at that. And a mentor is more like, this is kind of the way I did it, kind of take you under their wings, kind of tell you more, talk shop in that way. They're similar. A coach more kind of helps you track and tweak, where a mentor is going to be more showing you some ropes. And I agree with Elle. You're going to want a little bit of both. It's good stuff. It was a lot to take in. But hopefully it gave you some structure. And you need to probably go back and get a little structure. There's nothing wrong with having an outline when you sit down in a consultation. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And so coaches, you can say anything, but in front of big producers, don't be so honest. That's good advice, Elle. Yeah. And some of you, it's interesting. Especially some of the bigger box brokerages, you got to kind of mind your P's and Q's early on. I agree. People can really help you in real estate, and they can really not help you in real estate. So make sure you're in a brokerage that you're you're happy with, that it's the right fit for you. Elle's absolutely right. You know, be reserved, be professional, have a good attitude, expect that you're going to be doing 95% of the work, and take all the help you can get, and then work all the harder. And then you'll find that people are very much eager to help you. And when you, like Elle said, if you go and you ask great questions and you ask people to help you and you're showing that you're doing the work, they absolutely will. That's the right attitude to have. And then again, you're always looking for a system. And what's a system? A system is nothing more than this: I do these things, I get these things in return. I track and tweak. And that's what you want to develop in real estate. And if my resources on my YouTube channel, search for Stronghold Training on my YouTube channel, look at the real estate playlist. If that helps you, great. Um, wish you guys all the best. I hope this was helpful. If this sounded like a lot, like, man, that was a lot of structure. Look, again, I told you, most people aren't doing all of this. So you don't, I think this is the big game changer in leadership. I think you can definitely do it, and it's going to help you. But let yourself grow, right? Don't, even if you're not 100% ready to get out there and help everybody, you'll feel inadequate and ill prepared. Get out there and help them. You're going to learn to do this by practicing it. Real estate is a practice. So get out there, help people, make yourself available, follow the process best you can, and you'll get better. Don't wait until you've got it mastered to start, because you'll never start. Jump out there. You'll be fine. Thank you guys. Appreciate you. I'll see you on the next training.